Kate Weiler's a skilled diplomat who spent much of her career working in the Middle East. She's thrown off guard when the president asks her to be the ambassador of England after a hostile attack on a British aircraft carrier off the coast of Iran, thinking she was in the Oval Office to talk about her husband Hal, who normally takes the big ambassador gigs, a famous diplomat in his own right. It's revealed White House Chief of Staff Billy Appiah wants Stuart Hayford, station chief at the British U.S. Embassy, to vet Kate for possibly becoming the vice president, since the current one will inevitably have to resign.
Mr. Weiler's here. Does he know Meg Weiler?
Is that a problem?
She's a Tory operative. She built the strategy behind Trowbridge's campaign, and then he fired her when the paper started saying that she was the brains behind the operation. She takes racists and turns them into lovable guys you wish had time to coach Pee-wee soccer.
Not wanting the controversial Tory to be the first person Kate gets pictured talking to by the press, Stuart quickly gets her out of there, leaving Hal behind, who the press mistake for the U.S. ambassador. It's revealed that the CIA chief of station, Edra Park, and Stuart have a clandestine relationship. Kate tells Stuart she's getting a divorce, and he goes to Hal to let him know there is no way Kate can be vice president if they're getting a divorce.
You were here for 2 hours. You made one phone call, and the Secretary of State wants to fire her.
Yeah, I'm a big fucking pain in the ass, but it doesn't work without me. She is a frog in a pot of water. We have 6 months. We can turn the heat up slowly, and she won't jump out. But you can't tell her you're boiling her alive. Billy says you're good at this. And I'm good at this, which we all know, despite the chaos which reigns around me. We can get her there.
Hal gets tricked by a young stylist into getting into a car, and the stylist plunges a needle into his neck. When Hal wakes up, his kidnappers put him on the phone with the Deputy Prime Minister. Meanwhile, Stuart checks the security camera, finding the footage of Hal leaving with the stylist. Before they find Hal, he's dropped back off at the gates by his kidnappers. The CIA investigate Hal's kidnapping to see if they can corroborate the information the alleged Iranian assassin gave him. Kate has a CIA friend run a cell phone check on Hal and finds out that he called a contact in Rome to set up the phone call with the Iranian deputy minister. When Kate asks Dennison to try to get Prime Minister Trowbridge to walk back what he said about Iran, Dennison tells her to get the US president to encourage Trowbridge because he holds little sway over the Prime Minister.
If this was Tehran, then mark my words, I will rain hellfire upon you.
Jesus Christ. Fucking great.
After Kate threatens divorce, Hal tells her she can't because they want her to step in as vice president, right as the US president touches down at Winfield House. President Rayburn says he's sending in a carrier group to the Gulf because the British ship is sinking, but Dennison tells Kate in private that it's not actually sinking. PM Trowbridge is just luring the ship over there because he knows if it's a distress call, the US president will agree, but it will still look like a show of force.
If the president could share his perspective, his wisdom with the PM, perhaps a cooling...
That's what begging looks like to you?
I didn't drop to my
For
knees.
fuck's sake, if the house is on fire, you gotta tell me.
The house is on fire.
Stuart and Billy pitch Kate on stepping in as vice president, telling her that she's the best choice out of the other women on her shortlist. And the best part is, she doesn't have to campaign. Kate gets very upset when Billy tells her that Hal and her have had this idea for a month, and Hal never told her. In a clear case of physical husband abuse, Kate pummels Hal outside when he tells her he wasn't serious about getting a divorce when they discussed it 2 weeks earlier.
Marriage!
Kate, stop!
Killing me!
Against the advice of everyone, Kate goes to say goodbye to the president, covered in dirt and branches, and gets real, talking him into pulling the carrier group he was sending to the Persian Gulf. Trowbridge continues to insist on pointing his finger at Iran.
I've just learned that President Rayburn, who had pledged his support in a rather complex mission rescuing our men and women at sea, saw fit to revoke that promise. With fire for fire, we shall defend our island home, and if our friends turn tail, we shall do it alone.
When Edra at the CIA figures out that Kate's informer is British Foreign Secretary Dennison, Edra convinces her to try and make contact with him that day, so they can show him the coded message they responded to and summon the Iranian ambassador. The Iranian ambassador starts to look sick, so he sits down and Kate pours him some tea. He starts to sip on the tea, gets worse, keels over, and dies. Before the Iranian diplomat died, he passed on the information that the Russian mercenaries were behind the attack.
How is it possible that they've not declared him dead yet?
Longer the better.
Is it?
It looks less like you poisoned him.
You think they'll say that I poisoned him? Yeah.
You didn't, did you?
Did you?
Not my style.
When they meet at Denison's country bunker, Trowbridge shows up uninvited and derails their meeting about their upcoming discussion between Secretary of State Gannon and British Foreign Secretary Denison. The three talking points during the meeting that Trowbridge thinks should be addressed are Russia, Russia, and Russia. Denison reminds him it's a bad idea to piss off a country so willing to go to war, and Trowbridge asks why they don't just blame Lenkov then.
The moment we accuse either Russia or Lenkov of a direct attack on the United Kingdom, a NATO ally, they will preempt our response.
After Hal hangs out with Denison's sister and realizes how lonely Denison is, he suggests that Denison be Kate's fuck buddy when he goes back to Washington. And later that day, Hal has sex with Denison's sister in a pond. Adra asks Stuart why Kate asked the Department of Defense for a list of possible Russian targets for Trowbridge to pick from.
You ask the military for a list of things they'd like to blow up. They have answers.
It sounds like you want to bomb something. Why don't we do that? I have a list of Russian targets provided by the Department of Defense. Why don't you pick one, and we'll blow something up? Do not need your defense secretary. We're not bombing anything. I gave him what he wanted so he could stop wanting it so badly.
When the Weilers bump into Trowbridge in the kitchen after raiding the pantry, Kate seems to talk him off the ledge, appealing to his more rational side, as they have a late-night snack and drink vintage wine. Later that night, drunk off vintage, Kate bursts into Denison's room, confessing that they work well together. She means professionally, but Denison takes it the wrong way, and awkwardly confesses the electric sexual chemistry he feels between them. The next day, Trowbridge wants to bomb a new target no one ever heard of, and Kate realizes he must be getting the intel from Tory operative Meg Royland, who happens to have a charming place around the way. When Denison begins to lock horns with Kate, she tells him he's trying to blow up their good work relationship because of the awkward moment the other night, assuring him that she feels the attraction too, and admires his intelligence. And her and Hal are getting a divorce, but at the moment, they have bigger fish to fry. Kate sneaks off the property to go speak with Royland herself. When Stuart reminds her that she needs to meet the Secretary of Defense at the airport, she tells him to send Hal instead. Kate pitches Margaret Royland's plan of attacking the Lenkov group in the guise of aiding the Libyans who are currently under attack by Lenkov's troops, knowing that when Trowbridge calls Royland, she'll tell him it's a good plan. Gannon denies their plan outright. Hal tells Kate that since both the president and Billy want her for vice president, that's time she breaks shit.
What is it that you think I should break?
The Secretary of State.
Do you see that every time you're backed into a corner, or I am backed into a corner, your best idea is to cut the legs off one of your colleagues?
Kate is starting to see why Hal likes being ambassador so much.
On a day like today, yeah.
It's like a fucking drug, isn't it?
Settle down.
When Kate meets with the Russian ambassador, he keeps on talking as if he's dressing her down. But actually, he's giving her time to go 2 flights of stairs down to a wine shop where she meets with the woman that gives her the whereabouts of Lenkov later that month. Although Trowbridge told Kate that arresting Lenkov was a bad idea, he was all for it the next day. And Kate guesses it's because Meg Royland told him avoiding war and arresting Lenkov would be a good idea for re-election. So Denison and Kate go to Paris to ask if they can arrest Lenkov on French soil. When Kate and Denison meet with the French diplomat, she tells them no to arresting Lenkov on French soil, but Denison believes that they can try again, and Kate can talk to her one-on-one. When Hal tries to meet with the Tory that wants to speak with the president, Kate gets her staff in London to handle the situation. The French government reluctantly grant the Brits the rights to arrest Lenkov on French soil. Since French intelligence were told the Brits don't plan on letting Lenkov out alive, Kate figures out that Lenkov is only good dead for the people who hired him, implying Prime Minister Trowbridge hired him. The Tory Hal tried to meet leaves when a member of embassy staff shows up in Hal's place. When the Tory opens his car, a bomb goes off. Then the scene cuts to police informing Kate something inaudible to the audience on the streets of Paris as tears start to roll down her face. Although the audience is left on a cliffhanger, my best guess is her interference with Hal's meeting most likely caused the explosion, and that's what the police are informing Kate about before the credits roll.